We're facing some incredibly complex, fast-moving crises right now. I'm talking about things like infodemics, climate migration, political polarization. And to get through them, we really rely on social science to help us understand our world. But what happens if those tools are broken? Today, we're going to dig into why social science is facing a serious crisis of relevance, and more importantly, what the path forward actually looks like. To really get this crisis, let's start with a story. So picture Dr. Chen. She's a brilliant researcher, and she's presenting her findings on vaccine hesitancy to a room full of public health officials. And she's done everything right. I mean, years of data collection, peer-reviewed models, the whole 9 yards. But as she's presenting her work, an official gently interrupts with this just absolutely devastating line. See, while Dr. Chen was achieving perfect academic rigor, the world didn't wait. The crisis mutated, it spread, and it was being fought on the ground with much faster, more agile tools. Her work was perfect, but it was perfectly late. Dr. Chen's story is a perfect illustration of what we're calling the relevance gap. It's this growing chasm between the world as it is, fast, interconnected, chaotic, and the world that academic social science was originally built to study, which was, let's be honest, a lot slower and way more predictable. And this gap, it isn't just some minor inconvenience, it's a fundamental failure to meet the moment we're in. Okay, so how on earth did this gap get so wide? To understand that, we have to look at the very foundations of academic social science. What we're going to see is that its methods, its incentives, they were all designed for a world that, frankly, just doesn't exist anymore. This slide really just lays the contrast bare. On one side, you have the academic clock. It ticks in these years-long cycles of grant applications, peer review, and journal publications. But on the other side, you've got the world's clock, which operates at the speed of a viral tweet. Academia loves to work in these isolated disciplines, right? But real-world problems like climate change are a tangled mess of economics and culture and science. The academic system rewards publishing in paywalled journals, while the world is practically screaming for actionable solutions they can use now. And look, this didn't just happen by accident. The relevance gap is the result of a massive collision. It's really a perfect storm, created by these long-standing weaknesses inside the academic world and a series of huge, game-changing shocks from the outside. So let's start with those internal weaknesses. Probably the biggest one is the publish or perish incentive system. It basically turns research into a numbers game, where your success is measured by how many papers you publish, not by the actual social impact you have. This also forces disciplines into their own little silos, these methodological monocultures, where an economist only talks to other economists and a sociologist only talks to other sociologists. And way too often, this whole thing is built on an extractive model, where researchers just kind of mine communities for data and then leave without providing any tangible value in return. So while academia was struggling with all these internal issues, the world outside delivered a series of massive shocks. First, you have the digital Big Bang. It created this whole new hybrid reality of online and offline life that our old tools just can't map. Then, the climate crisis completely demolished that neat line between social and natural sciences, creating what we call wicked problems that no single discipline could ever hope to solve. And finally, epistemic turmoil. We're talking about the assault on the very idea of a shared reality. Think about the endless battles over fake news and basic facts. It shook the very foundations that science is built on. So, is this the end of social science? Is it just over? Far from it. This crisis is actually forcing a revolution. It's giving rise to a whole new paradigm, a big shift away from that detached observation and toward a science of collaboration and co-creation. So the crucial point here is that the path forward really involves three fundamental shifts. First, we need to build a hybrid toolkit, blending new high-tech methods with timeless, human-centered approaches. Second, the focus has to shift from abstract theory to action. I mean, designing research from day one to solve a specific problem. And third, and this might be the most important one, we have to co-create with communities. We have to treat them as expert partners in the research process, not just as subjects to be studied under a microscope. So what does this new toolkit actually look like in practice? Well, it's about combining high-tech tools like social media listening to see what's happening at a huge scale with deeply human methods like photo voice, where community members actually use photography to help everyone understand why it's happening. It's about becoming methodologically fluent, speaking the language of statistics, but also of stories and of code to get the full picture. Now, it's really easy to hear all this and think it's about making science softer or maybe less rigorous, but that is exactly wrong. This new collaborative approach is actually an elevation of science. It demands more intellectual honesty, more practical skill, and a far deeper ethical commitment than the old model ever did. It's harder work, for sure, but it's so much better. Ultimately, this brings us to a really critical moment. The future of social science isn't guaranteed, right? It's not a pre-written story. It's a choice that researchers, universities, and funders all have to make, and they have to make it right now. And this is the choice laid completely bare. Will social science keep going down the old path, perfecting its models in the ivory tower while its relevance just fades away? Or will it choose a new path, a harder path, a messier one for sure, but an infinitely more impactful path of actually getting its hands dirty to help understand and heal our world? This shift to a science of co-creation, it isn't some distant futuristic dream. The tools already exist. The methods are being pioneered as we speak, and the need for it, as we see every single day in our news feeds, has never, ever been greater. The shift begins now.